Right, yeah, I think it's not fair, right, to expect someone to be all the things that you acquire.
And I wrote down like a list of things that like will he be able to accomplish these things
Yeah.
in the next like several weeks. And I wrote down my list. Not, most of my list didn't get accomplished. Sorry to the person if they ever see this, but you never accomplished what was on that list.
I remember when I was young, my grandfather took me to the mall with him, and we had lunch with another woman. Well, later on,
Grandpa, who's it?
Grandpa was Rolling Stone, and this is a man of faith. He was a preacher. He worked in government.
So, hey everybody, my name is Denise Morales, your host for Be Nurtured, Be You in My Feel Spot Out Heal podcast. And I'm so excited to bring our wonderful guest here today, and I'll let him introduce himself. Who are you?
My name's Domenique Montgomery. Am I supposed to tell him I'm a professional?
Whatever you
or-
want to tell us.
Okay. So I guess quick snapshot. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I am a graduate of HBCU TSU. Really found in my heart to give back to my community. And I'm also currently a assistant director at Rice University, focusing on our civic engagement for students and community.
Yes, and congratulations on your new position.
Thank you,
That's
thank
really
you.
major. Kind of some of the history before of how we met in the neighborhood of Fifth Ward and just going into transitional places.
Right,
We,
constantly.
yeah, we're moving and grooving. And that kind of leads us into the topic of today, finding yourself in the midst of transitions and what does that look like, especially for a healing journey if you're trying to figure yourself out, going from one place to another and things of that sort. And so we're going to just have a good conversation around this, and hopefully there's some fruitful things that you can learn along the way. So
Hopefully.
hopefully.
Yeah.
So tell us, you moved down here when?
So I came to Texas in 2016, May. I'll never forget. So it was May 3rd, 2016. And I was out the Army, coming back into the Army, active duty. And my first duty location was up in Conroe, Texas.
Okay.
My first time to Texas, I had never
That's a bad
even
introduction,
thought
Conroe.
about ever moving to Texas. I had no desire to come out here. So yeah, it definitely was a bad intro. I think I moved out. It was like during a storm. So I get here, it's gloomy. This is very depressing. And this is really like stereotypical Western town feel of Conroe. So, I'm pretty sure I saw one of those little
Tumbleweeds.
going
like,
through,
pass
and
you
I'm
by.
like, bro, this is not gonna work out. But it did long term. I think I'm really satisfied with my decision to come into Texas, because then they had decisions about a couple of places I can go. So Conroe was one of them, and I think one, of course, is close to Houston. And I looked it up, looked like an interesting place to live. But I really too, I think what kind of kept me here so far has just been this journey of transition. Kind of go from one thing to the next, relationships, professionally, personally, internally, how I think about myself and everything else. So it's been cool.
So whenever you were coming into the city, well, not even city of Houston, city of Conroe
Yeah.
in Texas, what parts of you were you still trying to figure out?
I think everything. I think right before I had left, I had kind of gone like the spiritual journey kind of route, where I was trying to really find myself within like religion.
Yeah.
So I had a really good mentor I met at ADT. It's like a security, home security agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at the call center, and I had gone through this weird situationship with another woman. And he kind of helped me guide me, I guess, so to speak, through some feelings I would have or some needs I had when it comes to like religious support. He was a pastor himself.
Okay, so he knew.
he
He was
knew.
in the spirit.
He was in the spirit, and I don't know, something, I guess my
Speak it
spirit was
up.
speaking, and his discernment picked up on what my needs were. And so he really helped guide me through it. Got like the day before I left for Texas, I think I got baptized and everything. Like I was really like,
You was in there.
I was in there, man. And so coming out here, this was like that new chapter for me. So
And were you before you left? Were you settled already in a religious home?
yes and no. I mean, I think so. One of those other like toxic traits I think I had when I was younger was like falling head over heels for people before I don't think I had a foundation of what a good relationship was. And we could talk, from what I've seen as a child growing up, so the short ones I was in as an adult, I didn't really have a good grasp on how do you form, how you create a relationship with a woman and have it be healthy. So because I was still trying to, again, find myself, who I was going to a church, but honestly, I was going there because she was going there.
Oh, so you weren't even going with the right motives.
I wasn't going the right motives at all. Like, if I reflect on it now, it's like, granted, did I listen to it? Did I take my notes? Was I trying to be a participant? Absolutely. But my real deep hidden reason for even being there definitely was because he was a member. That's where she was going at the time for like young adults and stuff.
Okay. And I can see how we easily get caught up in areas we're not even meant to be, but we get distracted.
Yes. I have ADD and it distracts me in all aspects of my life. So that's my work, like, in everything. So it's tough. Yeah.
So how do you manage that, knowing you have ADD and you're sometimes in places where you're trying to figure yourself out? How does it feel for you? What is that experience like?
I think it's tough. But with time in this space, you learn how to create healthy habits. So taking notes, writing things down, creating space for myself, being honest and open about where my mind is, being transparent, finding support I need, creating safety nets within like friend groups. I was going to therapy for a while, so within that space as well. Keep myself educated and active allows me to kind of create the mental capacity in order to focus on specific tasks, focus on specific moments in life, and like give my relationships the energy and time it kind of needs.
So do you, whenever you are having those moments where you're having to like put forward these coping mechanisms, are you going through like tunnel vision? What does the distractibility really look like for you?
I think for that, I have to give myself levels of grace. So like, even if it's like a time thing where it's like, all right, 20 minutes on this task, and then maybe 5 or 10 minutes doing something that's Instagram scrolling or like completely opposite what I should be focusing on.
I can take it away. I'm like on Instagram, like only 5 minutes, and I'm like an hour deep.
Right. So of course you have those moments when you dive too far into the algorithm, but still like allowing yourself to breathe in essence, so that you don't feel overwhelmed or you feel anxiety or you feel discouraged because you're not focusing on this task as long as you want to.
Oh man.
So if I'm able to break it down to small things, like today, like I said, I was studying for class, but I know how to do it in increments. I have to give myself those little couple minute breaks of just scrolling through an Instagram page or doing a complete opposite task before I can like really focus and finish this one thing I need to. And I apply that same kind of mindset in my relationships as well.
So it's giving yourself like little nuggets of opportunity for you to be like, okay, it's a reward for you to get there.
Fruit snacks, sandwiches, anything that can help me stay focused, I find it. So if like we're having a conversation with me and my partner and she wants my attention, I know to turn the TV off, like listen to it, make the attention. Sometimes you have to schedule these appointments. Like I don't have to use the word appointment, but like sometimes you do have to schedule that one-on-one time with your significant other to ensure that you can give it the focus it's need. But I really think it also comes down to having a partner that understands that, is able to work you within your own like guidelines to ensure that they can get what they need from you.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think what's important too is that everything what you're going through and I'm going through, we're going through is a place of transition.
Yeah.
So we're transitioning from one moment to another.
Right.
We're transitioning from job roles, different phases of our lives. I feel like we just got out of this young adult stage and we're in this awkward stage of like, so am I still a young adult or am I an adult now?
I want to be a young adult so much because you can be more irresponsible, so to speak, with like things. You don't feel as like, oh man, I really need to get my retirement together. Like retirement, 401k, you're trying to figure all these things out. And you always feel like you're behind the curve. Like that's me personally. I always feel like I'm behind the curve on everything when it comes to my education, when it comes to my professional status, when it comes to my finances, even when sometimes in my relationships. Like I should be married with kids by now. Sometimes I have those moments. But again, I think that goes back to what I said earlier about that grace and being honest with yourself and giving yourself that time to know, and every insurance I say to like, you're okay where you're at. Like you're not doing bad whatsoever without having to judge yourself or, gauge your transition against someone else's journey. Like that's their journey. It's not yours.
That's true. And I think the way I like to think about it is that maybe the reason I'm not there yet is because I was meant to go through something or learn something.
Yeah, I hate that so much. So like,
Why?
I do, cause I feel like it's
I
almost.
get impatient. Don't get me wrong.
I have no patience. I've let people know I don't have patience for anything. Like I don't stand in lines when I go out. I don't stand in lines. I don't like to stand in lines. I don't like waiting for people. If I get there and you're like 20, 30 minutes late, like mentally I have a problem. I want to leave, you know, but everyone's journey is different.
Yes.
But you still, I don't know. It's like a balancing act of keeping yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Right. But
That
also,
discipline is high.
also like letting yourself know it's okay to make mistakes. You know, I used to tell myself a lot. You go through what I went through because it was for my own betterment, and I'm not saying it wasn't. Like there's definitely lessons in failure and in tragedy. Like you can learn a lot from those moments in life. But I think sometimes we use it in a cliche way, and we use it for religious purposes, for people to explain certain doctrines to another individual without us really diving deep to the hardcore of the problem. Like I think sometimes people use that as a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Versus,
so making it an excuse versus like, no, you need it. You're intentionally messing up.
Yeah, you were just being
everything
irresponsible.
was. Yeah, I do believe that too.
You were just being irresponsible, which is
Yeah.
okay because you were a young adult learning life, trying to grow and be better. So it happens. But like I said, sometimes I think in certain spaces, especially minority spaces, we use that
As a crutch.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel that with you, and I resonate because I believe everything is a choice. You choose to wake up, you choose to brush your teeth, you choose to be loving, you choose to the impatience. We're choosing every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
And you saying like, I really sometimes consciously choosing to jack up.
I think it's maybe it's unconscious.
Conscious and unconscious. I think it's both.
It could be that. But I think there is a level of like responsibility associated with that to a certain extent. Now again, you forgetting something, you know, saying that's human nature. That's you being a person.
That's true.
Or you maybe not meeting someone else's expectations. That again, that is just you being human, and that's wrong for them creating expectations, right?
Yeah.
And not explaining that to you. But again, you never want to get so like into that where you're allowing it to be a crutch and to be an excuse for not putting in effort or not getting up early ahead of time. It takes you 30 minutes. You know it. You know your failures. But I'm 32 years old. I know what I'm good and what I'm not good at, right? So I have to give myself space. Like if I know I need to be at work at 9 o'clock, I know I like to take my time. I don't like to be rushed. So I need to be well in advance. You know what I'm saying? To ensure I get to work on time.
That makes sense.
Same thing with assignments. I know I will procrastinate to the last second. I need to make sure I remove as many barriers as possible to ensure I can at least put some effort into these assignments before they're due.
Okay. So tell me, what has been one of the major transitions you've recently gone through that's been weighing on you?
I think, I'm not sure if it's weighing, but something that is really prevalent for me is like my current relationship with my current partner. Like we've been together for about 3 years now, and we're making that next transition into holy matrimony, right? So again, it's something that's new to me. Prior to dating her, I don't think I lasted a relationship more than 6 months, maybe max. Yeah. And that wasn't even like 6 months straight. That was probably like us going back and forth, up and down with the individual. So like this is a new space that I'm not fully versed in at all because I have no experience in it. Like even looking at high school, like there was never a moment in my life where I physically was in a relationship, or personally in a relationship that was like structured correctly or had the boundaries that you need. Of course, you're young, so you learn those over time, but it's new territory for sure.
And you mentioned a little bit about you not having the right model for these relationship aspects. So what were you seeing and what did you know you needed to be or need to be going into?
Yeah, so you learn that like later on, unfortunately, as far as like what do you need, right? But in when I was younger, if I look back on my relationship, like my parents weren't married at all, right? So they had me while they were in college. They were trying to go to college at least, and that changed the trajectory of my mother's life, right? Same thing with my father. Their lives, what they were trying to accomplish, changed in that moment. Both my parents have been married to other people. Both my parents have been divorced to other people. I mean, there have been multiple marriages. So there's only a few relationships I can think about that were from my family that are consistent. Like even my grandparents, except not on my dad's side, but on my mother's side, there was inconsistencies, you know. I'll be transparent in this moment, but I remember when I was young, my grandfather took me to the mall with him, and we had lunch with another woman. Well, later on,
Grandpa, who's it?
Grandpa was Rolling Stone, and this is a man of faith. He was a preacher. He worked in government. He had his own church and everything. And years later, him and my grandmother divorced, and he remarried, and there's that woman. So as an adult, you reflect on that memory, and I think memories have connection to some of our unconscious movements and thoughts. You know, I think maybe it's not a memory that's overly prevalent as far as something I think about on a daily basis, but it has connection to how I move and how I operate, how I think, and it's something I don't even realize it. But it is something that's like I think about from time to time. Like in this moment, I don't think I thought about it in like at least 8 months, but it came just now, right? And so that's something that happened, right? So then but those are like reoccurring events almost in my life of relationships that I witnessed, you know, that I think kind of impacted my perception on how do you handle relationships, how should you act in those, and who are you in those moments.
So what moment did you go from this place where you knew that you couldn't function like this anymore and you wanted to function into a different capacity? Because you're moving into those phases now. So you went from being single in a relationship to being engaged, and surely you're going to be wed soon.
Right. But I think the moment that I realized it, I don't think I ever realized. I just think I got a little older, and you kind of want more out of a relationship, or you assume you do. So, and I think that speaks to sometimes some of the like complications we have in my current relationship, because you make an assumption about what you want, right? But we never really understand that until we have it. Like, I'll go to a pizza shop, I want this pizza, and I try. I'm like, it's not that good, right? It's not the best thing I've had. It's not. I view this particular pie differently. In any relationship, it can be very similar, our personal ones. So you assume what do you need in it, but you don't really know until you're in that moment,
That's
right?
true,
And you're
that's
able to reflect on it later on.
Yeah, and I think it's hard too because not one person can be everything that you need them to
Exactly.
be. And I think about that when I'm in a relationship with someone, or I think about relationships in general. My partner might not like the hiking or the swimming or all these extra activities, but maybe they do fulfill me emotionally.
Yeah.
They do support me in the household. They do different aspects that you need them to be. And that's where I feel like some of your support systems come in. Like you do have the friends that do like running, do have the friends that do like rock climbing, whatever it is. But not one person can be everything you need them to be. And I think that's the expectation. You can't hold the expectations like you're supposed to fulfill all of me.
Right. Yeah. I think it's not fair, right, to expect someone to be all the things that you require, right? So one thing I kind of explained to Dora one day was I explained to her, I asked her, like, what are your top like 3 or 5 things that are non-negotiable, right? When it comes to what do you need from me in this relationship? Because I can't do all 20. Like that's not
And you're being realistic with yourself. And you said that too, like I can't be all of it.
I can't be all of it. You know, so I'm really big on transparency. I'm naturally blunt and straightforward with people. I got older to like mold it in a way where it's not offensive.
Deliver it differently.
Yes. But I cannot help myself but like I'm an honest person. You know, I won't curse you out or anything like that. But I'll kind of let you know how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. She said not me. But I try to be honest with people about how I'm feeling in the moment to include in my relationships. So that's one thing I think I learned over time about not holding things in. Do I try to find the right moment for a certain thing to bring up? Yes, that's me being kind of strategic. But before it was like I just don't bring it up at all, right? But then those emotions still find their way out no matter what.
So you're tucking it under the rug, but eventually it's gonna come out.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So it used to be tucked on the rug. Now I kind of leave it on top of the rug, but it's the rug that's like in the other room. So it's there, it's out, but it's kind of just waiting for a certain time. We don't go in this room only
until we're ready.
Exactly. So we find spaces. So one thing we're working on too, it's kind of like a requirement I put on the marriage itself was like we have to do couples therapy. Okay. And I know for me, I don't feel comfortable making that transition. And so we kind of have conversation that goes deeper beyond maybe what we're thinking about. Because then I don't know what it is to be married.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means. And I can have many friends that are married give me as much advice. But one, not something they give you perspective from their experience. Where can I go to get some more professional help? Maybe they can ask certain questions that we're not thinking about.
Where it's unbiased, it's you and your relationship and
I
the
have
way
a
you want to
mediator.
grow it.
I have someone who can speak languages that are comfortable for both of us so that we can have that exchange if needed.
If you don't mind me asking, how long have you been in the counseling setting with your partner?
So we're still trying to figure that out as far as like just the timing for it. But we're scheduled. We're hoping to get married in October.
Okay.
So time is getting close.
Time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence. I really need to get on that. So that's the time management issue for me. But, you know, it is something that's going to happen. It has to happen before I would even be comfortable taking the next step.
And some self-disclosure, I have gone to couples counseling.
Okay.
So I think I was in a point of my relationship where I was trying to figure out, is this still serving me?
How did it help
Is this
you?
still serving us? It was hard.
Yeah.
I remember I was going through a place of transition myself where my partner wasn't interested in the things I was interested, but things that were my deal breakers. And that's my faith and my religion.
Okay.
And just kind of hearing that my partner at that time wasn't comfortable going to service with me. He was not comfortable in that environment at all. Really broke me because I'm like, I like it here. This is my support system. This is where I go to like re-energize. But at that time, I was also having a difficult time being in the midst of like the church. I felt like my skills were being overused and I was just having a hard time, a lot of transition.
A lot of things come from a lot of different places.
A lot of things were coming from different places and I was trying to figure myself out, trying to figure out this relationship. It was going on for like almost 2 years at this point.
Okay.
And I think it was around April, I just started feeling more anxious, more overwhelmed. And I'm like, this is not going the way it needs to. And I think I had like actually broken up with the person and they were like, no, let's give it another chance. Let's go to counseling. Tried counseling from like April to May. And by May, pretty much me and my counselor had made up that relationship was not serving me. It was not going to work. And so she had me write down some techniques and tools. And counselors do have counselors, by the way.
They do.
They do have counselors, so you need it. But she had me write down this technique of what are some of the things in your relationship that you don't want to say it out loud for your partner to say, but they naturally do it, and it's things that you liked for them to be done. So pretty much, do you speak on your love language? Like I know that my love language, and I just did it too, it's like acts of service, words of affirmation. So pretty much that's the way I know to receive love. And I wrote down like a list of things that like, will he be able to accomplish these things in the next like several weeks? And I wrote down my list. Most of my list didn't get accomplished. Sorry to the person if they ever see this, but you never accomplished what was on that list. And
It's the shade room, low key.
And what it made me realize in my experience also with going to counseling was that I had settled for an idea of wanting marriage because everybody was getting to that point.
Yeah.
Everybody was in the transitional phase for this young adult stage of like, we're moving in, we're getting engaged, we're having a family, but did I do that with the right person? Yeah,
I think that's a legitimate fear
hard
to have or concern to have, and so that's why I say it jokingly, but for me it's the truth. And I think it's, again, this stems from like family relationships that I've seen. Like, but I have one marriage in me. I don't think I have the capacity, like emotionally or mentally, to do it more than once.
Yeah.
So that's why I really would like to give this one my all, as far as like trying to make it work, trying to assuring that we're creating like boundaries and the parameters and a foundation for us to really stand on in the future. And that means going to counseling. That means having some really hard conversations.
Yes.
I'm all for it. But for me, I don't know if I can do it more than once, Denise. I don't know.
And I think it's hard, especially when, at least for me, I don't like to step on anybody's toes. So having uncomfortable conversations is uncomfortable for me. And when it comes to having uncomfortable conversations with your partner, you don't want to. I don't want to.
You don't want to hurt
upset.
them.
I don't want to hurt you.
You don't want to hurt them. And I think so. Dora is a very, very considerate and compassionate individual. She's a good human being.
Thank God.
Like a good human being. So the last thing I would want to do is to hurt her. So then that's why. In the beginning of our relationship, it was hard because once I recognized that, I almost felt like I was walking on eggshells because my family's my family and me, we're opposite. We're loud, we curse, but we don't mean to be, the intention is to be mean. We're just vocalizing our thoughts. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to say it in a hateful manner. We're just very like, I act like my mother.
This is a very normal environment.
For me, it's normal. It's how we function. My best friend who lives out here, we've been best friends for almost 20 years. We're from Florida as well. We act the same. Like we do. That's how we talk to one another.
This is how we be.
So this is exactly. So when we started dating, that was one of the difficulties. Was I was trying to, once she expressed how that made her feel, I was trying to like navigate that. But at the same time, I felt like I was like losing myself. Like, I couldn't even speak almost.
Yeah.
You know, and that's very frustrating as someone that's opinionated and vocal and likes to be vocal, like not being able to speak on how you feel or just a thought you have because you're afraid you can hurt that person's feelings.
So how do you move past that?
Hard conversations. We actually broke up one time, like right after my graduation, after she met my whole family. Something happened and I just had enough. Like, I was like, I'm not doing this. And so we were separated for a couple of days. We had a conversation about like what led up to that. And we were able to, again, set those parameters, set the understanding, I think, so you can see it from both perspectives. Because I think it's easy to lose things from your idea. Like, you see it your way, but it's really hard to see the lens of another individual. Even in those relationships where you say, I love you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's hard too, because you're going to go through struggles in the midst of you having a relationship or everything that happens around you. And you have a dual identity. You have the identity that comes with you and your family. And this person has an identity that comes with them and their family. And it's, how do you make a new identity? Because even biblically, it says you will leave your parents and make your own family. And that's hard. Where you going?
That's hard. And then I always think like, well, people grow over time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, the things you like about individual today, in a few years, that might be different. They might be doing, you may view that action completely different. Now you've changed, you've grown. So maybe you view this, she eats pineapples every Tuesday at 3. Like, in the beginning, you're fine. I eat some pineapples with her. Yeah, that's great. But then by year 5, you're like, again?
Yeah.
It's Tuesday again. You don't want to eat a mango or something? You don't want to have some strawberries or grapes? Like, but that's trying to be funny with that, but it's the reality of how we grow as individuals and how we view someone else's growth or what we perceive a lack of. It's not a lack of growth, that's just them being who they are. Can you handle that a few years later?
And what it sounds like is like, how do you renew this sense of love or this sense of appreciation for your partner, for people that you are in relationships with, so you can continue to be one? Yeah. It's every choice. It's a choice.
Yeah. And how do you, I don't know. It's another question. Like, I don't know the answer to that one because I've never been married. Right. I've never been in relationships past, this is my longest one. And at least for me, like, grandma and grandpa and around you give that kind of advice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's, no disrespect to my grandparents, but like.
I didn't have grandparents. Luckily my parents are together, but I'm seeing a lot of people close to me, like siblings, like my own partner, coming from divorced relationships, or I've been with individuals who have parents in divorced relationships. And so sometimes for one individual, it's like, is this going to work? But for the other person, it's like, no, I have faith that things will follow through. Yeah. But I know that's something that I don't want to be robbed of. Even if it might end up that way, I still want to say I gave it my all. Yeah. I tried. I give you 100.
That's my thing.
And I want to experience it.
As long as I can say, I gave it my all and I actually tried, I think I'll be fine in the day. You know, I don't think I'll ever, if we, God forbid, we ever broke up and went different directions, that I will reflect, look back and say I didn't try. Because this is me, like before, like I said in the past, me not trying was me just, you know, in my mind, I'm saying we're going to break up soon. And my actions show that because there's a lack of. I'm not expressing myself. I'm not really doing the things that I know they were looking for me to do because I've already kind of checked that relationship.
So is that like a self-sabotage?
Yeah, I'm very, yes, thank you for pointing that out. That's what I do.
Because I do it too.
I do it. Like I self-sabotage myself in so many ways. And not just my personal relationships, but in my professional spaces as well. Like, I don't want to work on an assignment that I know is due or I know is impactful, is important, because maybe I've checked out for some reason. Yeah. So it's school, like it's I'm
the distractibilities come in and you self-sabotage it.
Even though you know this is important, you know the assignment is due is this day. You know how it's not even a hard thing to write up. It's 500 words. Like most people can do 500 word essays. It's pretty simple. But you find a reason not to do it. Yeah. And you legitimize that reason further. That always makes it even worse. You find a way to make it legit.
And I think it frustrates me because I know it's something that is important and I want to be able to focus on it, but I've allowed everything else to become an excuse that I cannot do it. And I give up and I defeat. But it's weird. I think in the relationship aspect of self-sabotage, you know you have something great. You know this is what you want. Yeah. But maybe you tell yourself, I don't know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be a wife. That's self-sabotage right there. Coming into play.
That is.
You're giving yourself the negative self-talk of saying, maybe I can't do this.
And I think that's another reason why I'm like, we probably should go to couple counseling, because maybe they can help answer those questions about, hey, how do I do this thing? You know, I have my father, he's a Jehovah's Witness. He's currently married. I think his current wife, him and Michelle have been married for, I don't know, at least over a decade. And I can ask him those kind of questions. And I can get responses. But I think for me, sometimes it feels like it's a little biased. You know, because we're not biased, they're personalized.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't fit me and my personality. You know, me and him share some similar traits. It might not fit me and Dora's relationship. So then how do I apply it in this format?
Yeah.
So,
And you are a different generation, and your parents went through something different than what you did. And now they're in different relationships. Everybody functions differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you find answers in this phase of your life?
I don't know. I don't, and I think
it's okay not to have those answers.
I was
to be
just about to
honest.
say, I've got
it's
to
okay.
become okay with not having all the answers. Like I know I don't have it, but I think it goes back to your ability to seek. You know, seek knowledge. Like, do you have that ability? And I think that is.
And I don't think you're giving yourself enough props too. Like I want you to recognize that you transitioned from a place where I didn't know how to be in a long-term relationship to I know how to be in a long-term relationship. Part of learning had to be for you to be in that space. There was no other way for you to learn unless you were in that phase of your life.
If you ever figured out, I'm probably one of the most humble people you're ever gonna meet in your life. I have. Dora tried to say like I don't know how to get excited because I don't know how to get excited. I could get a Nobel Peace Prize tomorrow, and I'll be like, all right, that's cool.
This is great.
It's cool. That's what's thanks. Like I don't really know how to
express it or get giddy about it.
I don't know what it feels like to be excited about something. I think I just get so used to just doing things. Yeah. It's just another check mark on the box.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, cool, we did that. What's next?
And if you're always trying to think about what's next and trying to find a moment of being excited, but not being excited for the things you are accomplishing, then you're trying to catch a feeling that you never allow yourself to feel.
Exactly. Like, how do you be in the moment? So that's another thing. And that's me being honest with myself and reflecting on my own inabilities, my own flaws. And that's something I've grown to know about. And while I'm looking for that couples therapy, I'm also looking for personal therapy for myself so that I can work on those things. So how do I put myself in the moment and actually enjoy it for once? Yeah. Because I could never.
You want to enjoy this experience too. You don't want to be robbed of it.
I'm robbing myself again. So that's self-sabotage. I know it's bad, but at least I'm conscious of who I am. So I think that's a strength I have. But it's like putting the work in, finding the time to really address those. Yeah. While at the midst of trying to be an adult, trying to do all these adulting things, relationships, careers, personal life. You're trying to do a lot. We're trying to do a lot in a little bit of time. Yeah. We don't have a lot of time.
Do you feel like you run out of time? Like, where did my day go and I still didn't get X, Y, and Z done?
There were days where I have no idea what I did today. I mean, I showed up to work, but I don't know if I actually did any work.
You're mentally somewhere else?
It's not even about mentally something else. I just don't think I didn't accomplish what I would have liked to accomplish that day. And so that it becomes more of a negative day than it does a positive.
And that's how I known when to transition out of places. Where I start showing up and I start being unproductive. When I start showing up physically, but my mind is mentally somewhere else. Or I get distracted and I do start working on something else. I'm like, you're not getting the best version of me in this place because I'm not mentally present. Yeah. And that's when I start saying, I need to out. I need to go somewhere else because I'm starting to feel uncomfortable in this space.
So how do you get yourself prepared for that next transition? When you know you're not prepared, you're not ready for this anymore, like, or you're not comfortable in this place anymore.
I'm an answer seeker. And so I like to ask everybody and anybody. Okay. So I will go and ask divorcee for the question about the marriage. I will ask the person that's married about the marriage. I do want to hear it all. And at the end of the day, I still want to experience it for my own, even if I've been advised to not do it, because I do learn in the midst of failure. And I have to become comfortable with failing because then I'll never know that I even tried to risk to like get something out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a group of friends that I met through the Army, and we talk at least once a day. We've been doing that for at least 3 or 4 years now. You talk about all kind of stuff. Like, so we'll talk about all kind of stuff.
With the boys.
It's the boys chat for sure. But sometimes I'll ask questions because all 3 of them are married. I'm the only married with kids. I'm the only one that's like not married, no kids, just doing whatever I'm doing. So I've asked them for their advice and their thoughts and their perspective. And I think it's helped. It's giving me a different lens to see things. And sometimes it helps validate certain insecurities I have or any fears I have to see that someone either is dealt with it, they're dealing with it in the midst of their relationship,
Right.
and that I am not alone in that space. Like I too, something we can relate on. So it's good to have that balance and that support for sure.
So do you think you need to have yourself figured out before you go into this next phase?
I don't think it's realistic. I would like to. That'd be dope feelings like, oh, I have all this stuff figured out. But I don't think it's realistic of my abilities or just life. I don't think anyone has anything figured out. It's like having kids. Like, how do you have it figured out before you have the child? I don't think.
No, you don't. I never had a child. I never know how much I was going to be.
I don't care how much books you read. I don't care how many information you get from your friends, your parents, which you source. Once you're in the midst of having that child yourself, I think the game is all new territory, and you're really trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I've watched people trying to figure it out. I've seen it in real life. So.
And you say child, but I feel like we're birthing everything. We're gonna birth the marriage. We're gonna raise it.
Look at you
we're gonna
making these
nurture it.
connections.
We birthing.
That's fair. It's true. It's true. And so again, we were talking about all day. It's just like figuring out how do you exist in these spaces while you're in the space in real time. You can't really take a step back and evaluate it. Take a pause and then go. It doesn't click like the movie, right? I can't do that and rewind. Let me try it again. I say it this time. I have to like give myself that grace, and hopefully the next time something comes around, I'm able to address it more properly.
And I think we anticipate some of the anxieties of what's to come in the future, not even being in that space.
Yeah.
And that's what robs us from being present.
Always looking for the next, trying to look too far ahead.
I do that.
That's
too
those are
much.
personality traits. Like those are. I feel like we're strategic planners. So we're trying to like figure all these things out, and we know there's like a sub line to the sub to the sub, and so you're trying to get ahead of it, a plan for it. But when you talk about like these personal relationships, it's almost impossible.
I'm so bad about forward thinking. Like I do it too much to the point where I'm like, oh man, I'm dating with someone with a kid. My space only got one bedroom. What about?
Where they gonna stay at? Where the kid gonna be at?
No, dead ass. Like I'm already forward thinking this whole scenario that isn't even here.
You gotta get to that spot first. You gotta have some more
I know. I'm
dinner.
like, let me get to meet this person.
Oh, you haven't even met the kid yet?
Oh no, absolutely.
Okay,
we just came back from the beach. We had a great time. No, we had a great time moving in that direction. But you get so caught up about what's gonna come without thinking. You're planning for yourself, but you're not including the person you want to be with.
And that's the interesting thing to do. Like, how do you plan a life without incorporating that person into the planning itself? Like, doesn't really.
Then you're just planning your life. You're not planning like
y'all's life. Or the life that you're gonna live together. I think that's hard. Even going into like a marriage space where you assume people are doing that, having those conversations. I don't think they really are. I think that's a social media like advertisement that's not true. I'm sure some relationships do that, but like for us, finding time. So one thing we've done for a while, even before we were engaged, is it's like once a quarter we do like a relationship check-in, and that's time for that individual, for both parties to kind of speak on what needs are not being met, and how they could be met. Kind of like it's an update of how we feel about what's going on. Right. So,
I think that's necessary too. And when I think about myself and my future marriage, I want to say, let's sit down before the end of the year's up. What are we going to do this following year? Even if it's up to a quarter, up to a year, like. And I feel like you have to align each other. If not, you're never going to align. You have to make a choice to align. So our PTOs being aligned, vacation times, maybe we need a retreat. Like, yes, do the dinner dates. Maybe it's weird to be like, this isn't spontaneous, but I think for busy individuals, you have to get it on the calendar. If not, it's not going to happen. If
it's not on my calendar, Dora knows well, it's not. I'm not going to even. Yeah. She sends me calendar invites because like I will not.
Calendar invite girlies.
If you don't send it to me, I'm not going to show up. I'm not even thinking about it. You can tell me 40 times. I'm like, okay, yeah, got you. But if it doesn't make it to my calendar, the day of, you're like, wait, my bad, I was at this other function.
And it makes me sad when people send me like, hey, we gonna see you. I'm like, you ain't gonna see me if I don't get a Google invite. I'm not gonna be there.
Beat me halfway. Like, meet me halfway. You know my flaws and my strengths. Help me be productive or help me be, wherever you need me to be at. Like, so.
And that's interesting. So I think that even goes into how do we be better partners, better communicators? Your partner has picked up that in order to meet you halfway, send you Google Calendar invites.
Yes.
And that's something that you need to be present and in that moment.
Yes. I need to be held accountable. And that's a way to hold me accountable. That's a way for me to kind of look back and kind of plan too, like forward planning. So if I know I need to be somewhere, I can like make sure I leave another event or I don't double book myself or put something too close to that time frame.
Yeah.
But she's very, like I said, considerate and compassionate and flexible with her own scheduling to help me out. We both have busy schedules. We're both working professionals. We both have additional hobbies that we're interested in. We want to make time for, and we do that. We create space for ourselves, but it's also trying to create that space for one another, which is very, very hard. But with proper planning, and I think preparation, you can do it. It's just, I don't know, it's hard.
I mean, it's the saying, like, if you don't plan to succeed, you won't.
You won't. So
you won't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful and grateful for the woman that she is and how supportive she is of me, and how she allows me to kind of be who I am, and finding ways to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
But doing it in ways that kind of fit her own personality traits, because she's not an overly assertive person. That's not how she is as an individual. So, but she does it in her own little unique fashion to let me know.
So picking up on, I know what you're putting down, babe.
Yeah, pretty much. So so I understand. So I appreciate her greatly.
And so those places to transition have been very important in getting to where you are now and your relationship. What are some takeaways from our conversation that can help you, help others who are in a place to transition?
I think recognizing who you are, right, in various moments, and then applying that recognition in a very transparent way with those people who that you care about or who you know share that space with you.
Yeah.
I think that allows you to be your authentic self, but then also reduce or mitigates those negative issues that can arise when you are trying to take care of so many things to include another individual and their needs. So like finding spaces, being transparent who you are, and being intentional, I think is really, really important. When we're talking about having these relationships on a really holistic, emotional, supportive, beneficial level.
Yeah. And there's different levels of maturity. There's your own personal maturity, but I've always said there's relationship maturity.
Yeah.
That you learn as you date,
Mature.
as you go mature. you get older and you go through the experiences and you learn how to be a better partner. You learn that, okay, for me to have a healthy relationship. And some of us get used to toxicness. I feel like I've gotten used to toxicness in the past, and I don't want to repeat that cycle. It can be very much generational.
It can be. You can pass all kinds of things through generational trauma. From slavery can be passed from one person to the next. How we think about issues, how we see ourselves in the positionality, like all our experiences, age, gender, race, class, all these things. Identify how we perceive who we are and how we look through a lens of our action, the actions of others, and how we interpret that and what does it mean to us, how we internalize it. So, addressing those generational traumas, working our own issues out, working our own toxic problems. I think we all have levels of toxicity in ourselves, and being honest with each other about how that affects another person, and then working on positive ways to reduce it or address it in a healthy manner. I think is important. And it's hard though.
Yeah. And I feel like you really taught me today to kind of open my eyes and realize that in these moments of transition, I'm the only one that's accountable. I'm the one that has to be disciplined. I'm the one that has to choose. You can mess up if you want to, consciously, unconsciously, but I got to choose to change, to want it changed, to
you have to apply that grace
to want to be there.
So it's like a balancing act of being honest with yourself, holding yourself accountable, but still giving yourself that space and grace. Like, I'm gonna make mistakes.
Yeah, you're gonna mess up. And I think in relationships, it's important to recognize that you're gonna make mistakes, and your partner's gonna make mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a partnership.
And I think as I've gotten, to develop in my relationship, I have also recognized that I'm not even going to trip. Like, why? Why even trip over that? Like, I know if I were to do it, I want to have grace.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be received peacefully and be like, don't worry about it. Like, this is a safe place. Come here whenever you're falling, because I'm gonna take care of you.
Yeah,
that's what I want it to feel like.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel judged or feel like, dang, I don't even want to speak up about it.
Yeah. I'm not a perfect man, and I don't pretend to be. I'm very transparent and honest with my own flaws. And there's ways to know if you make a solid argument about what I'm doing that's wrong, I definitely will listen and take it into consideration and probably try and find ways to change it and take accountability for it. But I'm also like honest with myself about what we can do better ahead of time before it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Or what do I need to be doing? What's missing for me in the relationship? What can I ask for in return? Because a lot of times I think men they're kind of taught to pour in, but they're not always open about someone pouring into them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard thing that we have to deal with in these relationships. But I think it's important.
And who's pouring into you?
Dora, for sure, definitely pours in ways that I'm not used to. So I think that goes into why it's a new relationship. I'm not used to certain things. It's unknown. It's an unknown, right? And how do I handle that? What does it feel like? So definitely trying to get used to it. But between my partner, my close set of friends, but even things like my dog, allowing the love that she has to pour into me or use it as a space for me to absorb the love, whether she likes it or not, as my companion as well. And then doing things I like to do, like cooking is a great way, participating in other hobbies, running, like finding things that allow me to decompress. I use as formats of self-love to pour into myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that. That's personal responsibility to say that I'm also responsible for pouring into myself.
Yeah.
Not always someone else to me, but me into myself. And I did that this past couple of days.
Yeah.
I was like, let me take out the sewing machine. Like before you got here, I cleaned up the whole sewing machine and everything, but I finally got to sew a bunch of pants, even the one I'm wearing today. I was like, made it shorter. I cut everything that I needed to. But to me, that's relaxing because I just forget about everything else and I'm pouring into myself.
You be in that moment right there.
Be in that moment.
Yeah. And I'm happy for you. I'm happy you had that because I think, like we said earlier, like I have a hard time being in the moment. So when I hear someone else has a way to authentically be in that space in that moment, that's a great joy to see.
Yeah. And you might initially not want to get into the moment, but it's kind of like showing up. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Like maybe you don't want to go to the gym, but showing up, that once you get into it, you'll be like, man, I feel a lot better.
Nowhere I want to go to the gym.
You just got to show up to the gym.
Yeah, you do. You just got to do it sometimes. Get it done. It's hard though. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming out,
Thank
talking
you.
to us about transitional places, some of the things that hinder us, and how to move in the midst of figuring out yourself, pouring into yourself, and pouring into others. It's not easy.
I just want to thank you for the space you're creating for people to speak on those topics and presenting that to others. And so hopefully anyone who will listen today, you got something out of it. I never know whenever I speak if anyone can connect to it or resonate with them. But if it touches one person, I think I'll be satisfied. But more importantly, I definitely want to give you your flowers for what you're doing. You're a phenomenal woman. And you're doing a lot for this community. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dominique.
Thank you.